Good morning, everybody. Welcome to ASU Transfer Week. And this session is Chris Ozuna talking about partnerships across the education pipeline for post-secondary success. We're very pleased to have him here. And without further ado, we'll get you started, Chris.
Great. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Again, my name is Chris Ozuna. I'm going to be talking about a specific project that we work on related to this topic of establishing partnerships across the education pipeline. So I work for the ASU Helios Decision Center for Educational Excellence. We're a partnership between ASU and the Helios Education Foundation, which is one of the major education groups here in Arizona. We work on a variety of statewide projects. The main one I'll be talking about today is what we call the Postsecondary Feedback Reports. And this is a project that's meant to help connect high schools, community colleges, and universities with each other in the interest of student success. But we also do a variety of other projects. So here on this slide, you see a few pictures. We have space both at the Helios campus, which is that kind of pyramid triangle shaped building in the background there. We're also quite active on the ASU Tempe campus, embodied there by the charter photo. And one of our big set of products are these visualizations, which in that bottom, you can see a photograph of what we call the Decision Theater. This is a place where we display some of our visualizations. It's a theater that holds about 25 to 30 people, and across 7 screens, we can show a variety of interactive visualizations. There's a theater that exists at the Tempe campus, as well as the Helios building in Phoenix. Here's what I want to spend our time talking about today, though. So the first thing that I'll sort of describe to you is what is the Post-Secondary Feedback Reports portal, or what we call PSFR. Then I'll share a little bit about how we use PSFR with our partners, and then how our partners use PSFR for the in the interest of their students. So at any time, if you have a question or a comment, please feel free to drop it into the chat or the Q&A, and Kathy will monitor that. And I'm happy to answer them as it makes sense. So first, talking about what is PSFR. So the PSFR portal, again, that stands for Post-Secondary Feedback Reports. This is a portal that connects K-12 data with the state of Arizona's public community colleges and the 3 ABOR universities. So that would be ASU, NAU, and the U of A. The PSFR portal shows you where your past students have been to help you plan for current and future students. It's accurate, it's safe, it's reliable, and it's free to public high schools, districts, and charters in the state of Arizona. So let me share with you a little bit about how it came to be. So when we're thinking about the education pipeline, like these are 3 sort of main chunks that I want to bring up for right now. So we have high school, we have community colleges, we have universities, and there's a few different ways, of course, that they can feed into each other. So the traditional focus of what's called AZ transfer, excuse me, here in Arizona, there's an existing database that's been around for a couple of decades now that's called ASSIST. And this is an effort by the state of Arizona to really focus on transfer credits between the state's community colleges to the universities. So there's this quite accurate database that students cannot opt out of that allows community colleges to track how credits move into the universities. So with this existing database, what we've essentially done in this project is wrapped in the Arizona Department of Education, and we've been able to backstep it to the high school level. So by doing this, we've been able to expand sort of the reach of the education pipeline. So before, where community colleges were really just able to send information to the universities in terms of transferring units and credits, we're now able to build on that. So with PSFR, as you can see, it loops in the high school block, the yellow block on the far left, and it creates a 2-way information pathway between the high schools and the community colleges, as well as the high schools and the universities. So let me show you a little bit more about what that means. This project has taken a variety of partners. So there's our logo there at the top. As I said, we're the decision center. Below it, you'll see the logo for AZ Transfer and ASSIST, which stands for the Arizona State System for Information on Student Transfer. So that's that pre-existing database that I mentioned. We've also are deeply embedded with the Arizona Department of Ed. That's where the K-12 course information and data come from, which is being fed to them by districts and charter management organizations. And then we also have direct relationships with the community colleges as well. Our main partner and our funder is the Helios Education Foundation. And then we also work closely with ABOR to represent the university's interests. So the PSFR portal offers 6 main report types, and you can see them in a couple of different ways. So the names of these reports are shown here on the screen. We have the Community College Feedback Report, the University Feedback Report, the Dual Enrollment Summary, Dual Enrollment by Discipline, 1-year course benchmark, 3-year course benchmark, and we have a few what we call decision theater chart views. So that leads into this next section here of how do we use PSFR with our partners. Last November, so just about a year ago, we had sort of this launch convening for the PSFR project. And at that convening, Dr. Crow, president of ASU, was there as our keynote speaker. And he talked about kind of this key mission of PSFR and ASU's sort of role in this project more broadly. As you probably well know, like it's impossible for one single school or institution to really be thinking about making big changes to the entire education pipeline. So we're really happy to say that we have these like strong, well-resourced partners that are all in on this project for us. So we have a lot of support from ASU, but the project is not just about channeling students into ASU. It's really about giving the entire state access to the data that they're already generating, but in a way that allows them to make informed decisions. So the reports answer a few main questions. They talk about students' grades in classes by subject, both in high school and at community college and university. It allows you to see things like their majors, their GPAs. It gives some demographic breakdowns, so you can see does the portion of a high school's attendees in community college and university match that student body more generally, and vice versa. You can see things like if students access financial aid, what were their degrees and certificates awarded. You can see how do university students do compared to community college students. These are the report types again. I'm going to show you on the next few screens here just a few sample reports so you can get a sense of like what this actually looks like to a user. So this is an example of a community college feedback report. This is for a fake high school district. So this is a real version of the report, but it's fake information. It's just to give you a sense of what you might be able to see. So if a user, which would be a high school district or an individual high school like principal or counselor logs in, they'll be able to select a graduating class. So in this case, these are people who graduated high school in 2017. And it's showing you what happens to them if they attend an Arizona community college. So we can see that from this cohort of graduates from the whole district, this is the whole district, it says in the upper right, 1,898 of those students attended an Arizona community college. The vast majority of them were part-time, a little less than a fourth, it looks like, were full-time. 435 of them were attending at least 2 semesters full-time. The middle column here shows you the degrees that are awarded. So since this is the class of 2017, a few years have passed, so we're able to start to see like what kinds of degrees and certificates they're earning. So you can see that 174 of them have an associate's degree in liberal arts and sciences, general studies, or humanities. That's a common field for a community college. Likely they're on the transfer pathway, but you can also see more specific breakdowns. This is just a static screenshot. So in the actual portal, you could scroll down and there would be a lot more certificates types awarded there. On the rightmost column, you can see some sort of basic breakdown for the cohort as a whole. So their GPA breakdown, an enrollment by semester breakdown, and then if I were to scroll down in the actual portal, you'd see some demographics by race and ethnicity. So this report also exists for the university, where it would show you the enrollment across the 3 state universities. This report here is an example of a university course benchmark. So in this table, you're seeing a lot of information across a 3-year time span. So this is from 2018 through 2021. We're just rolling out the 2019 through 2022 version. So again, this is for the sample high school district. So for students who graduated from this district and were enrolled in university across that 3-year time span, these are the different courses that they're taking. So art 100 and 200 level, bio 100 and 200, and so on. The next column is showing you the total enrollments in that subject discipline. So it's not necessarily unique students. It's just the number of class enrollments in an art 100 or 200. Then it's showing you the number of those enrollments that were successful. So we define success in this portal as earning an A, B, or C, or a pass if it was pass, no pass. The percentage of those enrollments that were successful, how it compares to the state's average, the number of enrollments that were unsuccessful, meaning they earned a D or an F, or a no pass, percentage that are unsuccessful, and then the number of withdrawals and the percentage of withdrawals. So in this table, a school or a district is able to see, or a counselor is able to see sort of trends across that entire sample of students to get to understand, like, what are students taking? How are they doing in it? How does this maybe relate to the way that we're preparing them for these courses later on? This next sample report is a high school dual enrollment summary. So this is more relevant, of course, to our high school users. So this is just showing you some information related to who is taking dual enrollment in your district. So it's showing you the total number of students across this multi-year span here, their ethnicity breakdown, their gender, when they enrolled, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, that kind of information. So this is giving high schools feedback on what their dual enrollment programs look like, which is a quickly growing segment in Arizona, at least. This view is showing you the community college benchmark in what we call this decision theater chart view. So users of the portal are able to see the information in a more visual way. This is meant to present like at a professional development meeting or with an administration team, beyond like that sort of table view that's really better for sending via PDF or something like that. This again is just a static screenshot, but this is an interactive visualization. So if you hover or click on different things, it'll show you more detailed information for this area. Couple more here. This is a course benchmark by enrollment year. So what you're seeing here is, again, this is sorted by the high school district. On the left-hand side is the performance for students from that district. In this case, it's in English. You can see it's in the center. It's kind of small in that drop-down menu. How they're doing in English courses at the community college. So in our reports, orange refers to community college. And then on the right, it's how those students from that district do if they take English courses at the university. So these are plotting the percentage of the enrollments that are successful. The orange or maroon lines are that district's performance, and the blue line is the state average. So it's letting you see how your students do in community college or at the university, and then compared to Arizona as a whole. And this would be available for every discipline that your students go on to take. So this drop-down menu allows you to move and toggle between them. Our partners access the PSFR reports in two main ways. So we have an online portal on our website. That screenshot on the left is what it looks like to a user when they log in. So the reports are laid out by type and then by year. So you can go ahead and access what's important to you. Depending on the report, you can also see one for the entire state of Arizona and get information at that kind of high, 30,000 foot level. We also do in-person sessions in the decision theater. So again, there's that photo of it on the right. So sometimes we have, school district leaders, community college administrators who want to come into we call it, the nickname for it is the drum. We want to come into the drum and see information related to post-secondary feedback. And so we're able to present it here in this theater. So I'll go back a couple, this sort of chart view. Essentially what happens is when you select a specific group of students, all 7 screens are filled up with the different available reports, and we can do deep dives in that sort of collaborative space. We regularly provide updates to PSFR. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a tight relationship with both the with multiple groups, the Arizona Department of Ed, the community colleges and ABOR schools through AZ Transfer. So what that means is we essentially have the information at a very low lag for something like this. So like we just updated the portal just earlier last month with information related to the class of 2021. So meaning we had, data from the 3 state universities up through the spring 2022 semester. So this the last full semester earlier this calendar year. So when users sign up for an account, then they are added to our mailing list. And so we push out notifications of these updates as they become available, because we want this to be something that partners are able to rely on, especially if they're making decisions and making changes based on the information that they have. Which leads me to the last section here. So how do our partners use PSFR with their students? I want to highlight a couple things that we're doing in this area. So one project we have is what we call the Success Catalog. We're investigating schools and systems that have emerged as bright spots in the PSFR portal. So for example, we want to know what schools are sending large numbers of students, what high schools or districts rather, are sending large numbers of students to community college or university, and whose students are most successful in which disciplines. And then what can we learn from these schools? So one main project that I've been working on is this Success Catalog. So far I've conducted 10 initial interviews with various high schools across the state. And these are resulting in case study write-ups that are also feeding into a larger corpus that we're going to use to analyze in search of statewide trends. So on this map here of Arizona, you can see a pin for each of the schools that we've interviewed so far. So for example, we identify a school that has a high number of students who go on to take maybe engineering courses at the university level, and a very high percentage of them are successful, meaning they're earning A's or B's. We want to know from the high school partner and the community college partner, like what is it that's feeding into the success of those students? And then what lessons can we draw from that we can share with educators across the state? A couple of individual examples. So here is an example from Cienega High School, which is located in Vail, Arizona. You can think of it as a suburb of Tucson. With access to the post-secondary feedback reports, the administration and instructional leaders at Cienega High School began exploring their practices. So one thing that they noticed was in their feedback reports, they were surprised that their students weren't doing very well in history and social studies courses, both at the community college level and at the university level. So what they've been doing is they've been reaching out to their local community college, Pima Community College. They've set up a couple of visits with instructors in those intro level history and social studies courses. And they're trying to determine like where is the pedagogical mismatch, or what might be attributing to the difficulty that their graduates are facing in community college. From that, they're piloting a couple of changes in their instruction this school year, actually, to see if that makes a difference in future cohorts moving forward. Another thing that they've learned from the reports is they had a high number of students that were going on to take Mandarin, I think mostly at the university level. They don't offer Mandarin at their high school. And so since they see that there is a demand for it, they're trying to figure out how they might be able to offer an intro course at the high school level, whether that's via dual enrollment or some other way, to give students those options since there seems to be an interest in it. They're also changing the way that they counsel students in taking foreign language. So initially previously they've been, advising students like, oh, if you see yourself going onto a community college and then transferring to university from that direction, you only need to take 1 year of foreign language. But from these reports, they're able to see that actually a lot of their students are struggling in various foreign languages at the community college level. And they were attributing it to a sort of a gap. Most students are taking, say, Spanish 1 in their junior year of high school, not doing a foreign language in senior year, and then immediately jumping into one at a college. And so they're changing the way that they're advising students so that they can be more successful. Another case that I want to highlight for you is Nogales High School. That's in Nogales, Arizona, which is right on the border, on the US-Mexico border. They were identified as a leader in engineering success in the state universities. When I reached out to the school, they were surprised as well because they don't have an engineering program specifically. I've been working with them to try to identify what they attribute that success to and how they might be able to tap into county or state level resources, whether that's via like CTE coursework or with Pima Community College, to start to offer, a specific engineering pathway that's leading their students who are interested in pursuing that as a career option. And in preparation for this success interview that we were that we're currently undertaking, they're making more direct links between their math and science departments as they try to grapple with this issue. So those are a couple of examples that I wanted to highlight. There's several more or many more in the works, but just to give you a sense as to like how this tool is being used out there. In terms of what's next, so this is a screen I typically share when we're talking to potential partners. It might not be as relevant to you on the call, but you are able to request an account. So that QR code, links to the request form. It's available to, as I said before, public schools, districts, charter management organizations, other education players in the state of Arizona. Once you fill out that request form, we'll verify that you have access. We'll reach out to you if we have any questions. And then we encourage users to log into the account regularly. As I said before, we update every few months with new data and new features. We encourage districts, especially right now, to utilize these reports in their decision-making processes. We're starting to establish some relationships more concretely with community colleges as well. Again, like going back to that theme of strengthening the education pipeline, like how can we make sure that this is a tool that provides two-way feedback between everyone who's involved. And then we also encourage you to reach out to us if you're interested in this or want to learn more about our other projects. We are accepting partners in a variety of projects that we're working on. If you have any questions or want to reach out to us, here's my contact info at the top there, as well as that of the other partners that work on this, and our website address there at the bottom. But I think at this time, that's what I have prepared. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments or any other discussion that might be useful related to this topic.
I'm muted. If anybody would rather be unmuted than use the Q&A, just let me know. Your Q&A and I will open it up for you. While we're waiting to see if any questions come in, Chris, I have a question.
Sure.
Did you notice in your, well, in all of your work, but in particularly in your interviews for the success catalog work that you're doing, did you notice any differences in how the information impacted or was received by universities and community colleges? Did you notice any kind of implications for transfer that would support transfer or suggest that students are more successful when they transfer, anything like that?
We're just really starting to get to the point where I think it's starting with the community colleges. So with this project specifically, our focus initially has been on high school users because a lot of the way it's typically worked is, right, a high school can sort of think of themselves as like having an impact on their graduation rate. But then beyond that, there isn't like clear ways to get feedback. And that's what this is trying to initially solve. Through these conversations, what tends to happen, as you might imagine, is like most high schools, when they're sending students on to community college, it tends to be in their local area. Like those reports, I see that time and time again. The biggest number of high school graduates are going to the community college that's most local to them. So it's like naturally starting to stir up these conversations of like, okay, how do we operate as a region to strengthen these pipelines? Like everyone already sort of knows that, these are our feeder schools. And then if a community college is serving as that next nexus, right, to feed out into universities, like what can we do to strengthen that pipeline? So what I've seen is like initially when I was reaching out to community colleges, there had been, not resistance necessarily, but just like less of a clear view as to like, well, why does this matter to us? But now it's funny, like in conversations with multiple high schools, like in like the domain of a specific community college, now I'm starting to see like the community colleges more interested in reaching out to us and saying, oh, how do we get in on this? Like, how do we as one region start to more cohesively think about the way we're working as a pipeline, starting from high school down. So like we have a current project that's really at the early stages with one of the county offices of ed. that's trying to sort of pilot a cohesive view. And I'm excited to see like where direction that takes us. I think the Cienega example was a good one, right? Of like, how do we make sure what we're doing is aligning with what you're doing? Because I think that sort of mentality has already existed for community colleges to universities. So how do we see ourselves as a more cohesive pipeline, especially when it comes to increasing access, right? I think community colleges are a key part in like improving equity of access to higher ed, improving outcomes we're talking mostly about Arizona here, but no matter where you are. So I think that the appetite is there. And I'm hoping that this project helps like move some of that forward.
Yeah, perhaps that could be a presentation at next year's National Transfer Week. We look forward to seeing your work on that. Yeah, those examples, those examples of the high schools and how they use the information from your studies are really encouraging, and it'll be really neat to see how that evolves over time and possibly even furthers the impact on these students and their college experience, and in particular, from my point of view, the transfer experience of students. Well, we are going to wrap it up if nobody else has questions. And we thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. And this session is being recorded. It will be on the ASU website that you registered on for the session at the conclusion of the whole week's session. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you so much, Chris. And we will see you at another session.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you.
Bye-bye.